Hey everyone, welcome back to another hardware news recap. This episode is one of the most packed we've had in a while. First of all, Tom himself, that one from Tom's Hardware, responded to our video. Pretty cool, and very happy to have his response on the show. We'll be talking about that today. And then Amazon sort of strong-arming PC manufacturers, component manufacturers, over the upcoming tariffs, some news that we got exclusively through our sources. So GamersNexus exclusive on that. And then AMD shifting focus of production from GlobalFoundries to TSMC for its upcoming 7nm process designs. Before that, this video is brought to you by the NZXT E-Series power supplies. The E-Series PSUs are high-end power supplies with real-time digital voltage and temperature monitoring, per-rail wattage measurements, and data logging functionality for power usage. The E-Series PSUs also come with a 10-year warranty all the way down to the 500-watt unit, and they run fully modular and with silent fan operating modes. Learn more at the link below. So before really getting into the news, quick notice on an update to our wall art situation. We've wanted some wall art for the office, and we want to recruit you. So we're going to be opening a PO box. If it's not up by the time this video is live, we'll tweet out the address on twitter.com/GamersNexus. Otherwise, it'll be in the description below if we have it open. And the hope here is that if you have, I'm mostly looking for CPUs right now. So we're mostly looking for CPUs. And nothing new. We have all the new stuff. If you have old CPUs that you don't want anymore, you genuinely do not want it, you don't have any sentimental attachment to it, and you just want to get rid of it, then what we want to do is take some of them, delid them if they can be, and then, well, everything can be delided if we're honest, and then frame it and make some wall art. So I'd like to make like a history of AMD and history of Intel by our fans art piece to put on the walls. Just framed CPUs with a blurb next to each one about the history of that particular part, who sent it, if it was overclocked, what was the overclock you hit. So here's what you should do. If you have parts that you do not need, don't send us stuff we need. It's not that big of a deal. Don't send us stuff you have a sentimental attachment to. But if you don't have either of those things, send us the old parts you're not using anymore and include a note of anything special about it. Like, what did it overclock to? When did you buy it? Why did you buy it? Stuff like that. And the plan is to make just a framed thing we can put on the wall. So we did end up getting a PO box in time for this, so we'll put the address up on the screen now if you want to send stuff there for our art project. Quick note though, we're not sure how much stuff we're going to get, and with 300,000 subscribers, it could be a lot or it could be not a lot. So there's no guarantee anything you send will be shown on camera. We'll do our best, but don't expect it. We're really just trying to make some kind of cool wall art to put it up, and then you'll see it occasionally in the background of videos and stuff like that, hopefully, but there's no guarantee. Either way, though, we'll have the address up on the screen if you want to send something over, and you can also get it in the description below. So that's what we're looking for right now. And if you have other stuff like old computer posters, like stuff from, I don't know, 1 megabyte or 100 megabyte hard drives or whatever, just like posters, advertisements, old advertisements from magazines for those ancient computer hardware parts, you can send those over too, because we could definitely use those. The walls are pretty barren right now, and it'd be fun to decorate it with fan art. And then also definitely include either like specify if you don't want your real name on the card for who it came from, then put your alias that you want us to use instead. All right, first news item, first real news item. Amazon, strong-arming PC manufacturers over tariffs. This is something that we heard directly from multiple industry contacts, actually, and we're going to be working on a full story on this soon. So it'll be a standalone story with quotes from CEOs even in the industry. So we went out, spoke to a bunch of CEOs and salespeople and manufacturing experts about how the US proposed tariffs will impact the industry. We still have a couple days, I think, before everything's fully finalized. So we're waiting to produce that video until then. But for now, we do have some news on what Amazon's doing. So everything should be going into effect on September 6th, if it does go into effect. And the new tariffs are expected to impact component import costs anywhere from 10% to 25%, quite a big jump. And that's the import cost. So depending on the decisions by the USTR, those costs will be 10 to 25%, and then they'll be passed on largely to consumers. And 25% could turn into 27% by the time it hits the consumer, because the manufacturer is now engaging more of their money, which has a time cost, because that money can't be used for other things. So it might actually go up. Some manufacturers we spoke with have noted that for new products, they are actually trying to eat some of the cost themselves, so they'll make less money, but they want to make sure their products can compete. So they're trying to keep MSRP down, and they'll lower their margin. And by the way, very important thing here when we're talking about what Amazon's doing, once I mention this, keep in mind, most PC parts are really low margin. Like power supplies are often under 10%. Video cards, also often under 10%. Some of them are 2.8%. For some of the RTX cards, for the partners we spoke to, it's under 3% margin. So if you're looking at a 25% increase in cost to import it, the price has to go up. They will go out of business if they sell it at a loss, obviously. All right, so what's Amazon doing then? Right now, what we know is that some of the PC component manufacturers that you all are familiar with in the industry have indicated to us that Amazon is leveraging its position as the leader in retail to force part makers to keep their existing price positions, even if they lose money on them. So what's happening here? Several manufacturers that we've spoken with have indicated to Amazon that they wish to raise their MSRP on existing product lines in order to soak that cost of the tariff impact. And the tariffs here, this is, again, first of all, primarily a US thing, but it will impact the rest of the industry greatly. And the tariffs are not something that the manufacturers can control. That is a government thing. So it's not like the manufacturers have decided to apply them. It's just, it is being applied to their stuff no matter what, assuming they go through. So Amazon does not want to allow the MSRP increase to cover that exchange. They do not want to allow manufacturers to pass that new cost on to the consumer, which is very noble on the surface of it, except then you can't sell the product because they're not making any money. So what's happening here, there are workarounds. Some of the manufacturers have indicated an interest in spinning off a bunch of new SKUs, whether it's a new name or just a new product ID on Amazon and a new listing on Amazon, and then discontinuing the old ones. So if they kill all the old listings on Amazon, bring in new ones with new IDs, then they can raise the prices. But that's extremely convoluted. There's a cost to that as well, because now you're paying people to sit there and discontinue hundreds of product SKUs and bring in new ones. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. So Amazon has decided it does not want to permit the manufacturers to change to make money with the tariffs in mind. And it's a problem. And there's not a lot anyone can really do because ultimately Amazon controls online retail. So what are you going to do? Sell somewhere else and lose all your market share? I guess that's the other option. So we'll have a full deep dive on the new tariffs coming up shortly, including, again, quotes from at least one CEO and then a couple of representatives within the industry, including salespeople who make some of the calls on this stuff. And some of it will also be, a lot of it will be off record as well. So we're talking to everyone. We'll have more after the September 6th decision in the US by the USTR. Moving on, AMD remained present in the news this week with both manufacturing level news and executive reshuffling. Interestingly, AMD has elected to shift their focus to 7 nanometers, going all in, as AMD put it. Additionally, they have handed over production responsibilities solely to TSMC, as GlobalFoundries has chosen to divert funding and efforts away from their 7 nanometer node for the time being. Fortunately for AMD, the company already planned on using TSMC and was not fully dependent on GlobalFoundries, although multiple suppliers likely would have eased the supply chain. GlobalFoundries expressed an interest to instead focus on improving its financial position and selling higher margin products, namely 14 nanometer and 14 LP products, will push that angle. This came as a surprise, as GlobalFoundries was set to begin high volume manufacturing by the end of this year for 7 nanometer and was bragging about it regularly. As of now, all 7 nanometer production is indefinitely held at GlobalFoundries, but TSMC is still on track, and AMD was already planning to use them anyway. So then, speaking specifically to GlobalFoundries' shift in strategy, it looks like the company is choosing to put their 7 nanometer node on hold for all clients, not just AMD, and is instead focusing on 14 nanometer, 12 nanometer FinFET designs and LP designs. GlobalFoundries cites exponential R&D cost and a lack of business opportunities in the immediate future for bleeding-edge process nodes, but emphasized in an interview with AnandTech that technical abilities were not part of the decision. Extracting more longevity out of mature processes allows GlobalFoundries to focus on shorter-term profits and competition while gunning for emerging opportunities in low-power chips, RF, and embedded memory. Additionally, GlobalFoundries will be able to reduce their workforce by 5% with some layoffs, and will also have to renegotiate their WSAs, or wafer supply agreements, with AMD and Intel to reflect the new direction. AMD will now be relying on TSMC for all 7nm silicon, and this assures that their roadmap is still intact from what we were looking at earlier, and AMD does plan to use TSMC anyway, so it looks like they're going to be okay. Also in AMD news, there's been another high-profile shuffle in leadership at AMD. This time, Jim Anderson, Senior Vice President and General Manager of AMD's Computing and Graphics Group, has announced his departure from the company. Anderson was responsible for overseeing all of AMD's client computing business and was key to their success strategy with Ryzen. Anderson has left AMD for the CEO position at Lattice Semiconductor, and AMD has named his replacement as Syed Mushkalani. Next up, NVIDIA. A lot of you have expressed concern that NVIDIA did not really discuss their typical gaming performance in games that exist today, the ones that you have in 100% of your Steam library at this point. And for the RTX 2080 Ti versus 1080 Ti, there's not been much information at all for those two. 2080 versus 1080, there's been some, but either way, most of the information has been relegated to ray tracing performance, and some of it has been limited to a single NVIDIA-made slide about a 1.5x increase, which is kind of nebulous. So, NVIDIA's Tom Peterson joined Hot Hardware on their YouTube live stream last week on their podcast and addressed several questions pertaining to performance expectations for the RTX series cards, specifically the 2080 Ti and 1080 Ti as they compare to one another in normal rasterization gaming performance. So, although Peterson did clarify that he didn't have the data in front of him at the time, keep that in mind, his expectation was that the 2080 might perform the 1080 Ti in some instances, and when held to a firm answer by the Hot Hardware team, Peterson committed to a rough 35 to 45% gain claim for the 2080 Ti versus 1080 Ti. Peterson is likely not the person running all the benchmarks. He does a lot of work in the company, but he's a bit higher up. So his notes that he wasn't looking at data at the time and probably wasn't involved in benching it himself would put us a bit closer to the let's be cautious with this data side of things. So wait for the independent benchmark still. But if you wanted some numbers or you wanted something to hold NVIDIA to, that's the closest thing we've got right now. So they committed to a rough 35 to 45% gain Ti versus Ti generationally. And again, we'd still encourage waiting for official testing for more information. The full interview video can be found in our show notes linked below. So it was a pretty long video. It's about an hour long, and they go through just about everything, including NVLink. If you have more questions about that stuff, they cover a lot of it there. And the Hot Hardware team covered the RTX series with Tom for that full hour for the most part. So it might contain some new information for you. If you're interested, check the show notes below, and we'll have a link to their video. So this next one is special to us. This one, Tom's Hardware's founder commented on the controversy, the Just Buy It controversy, and the GN video. So founder Thomas Pabst, who left the site in 2007, just to be clear here, Tom himself, the namesake of Tom's Hardware, hasn't been with the site for about or just over 10 years at this point. So it's not like he was personally responsible for the Just Buy It article. Quite far away from it, actually. There's a different editor-in-chief these days. Actually, there have been several since Thomas left. So he commented, though, and posted a comment on the GamersNexus Facebook page, actually, to address our Tom's Hardware video. And the response was made to our coverage of the Just Buy It article. If you missed it, you should check it out first. But in that video, I asked a somewhat rhetorical question of, I think I said, Tom, what have you become? Look at yourself. I'm using Tom as an all-inclusive term for anyone who writes at Tom's Hardware. And Tom decided to answer that question because there's only one person who can answer that question of what have you become. And Tom's response was as follows. You asked, what happened, Tom? What has become of you? Well, there's only one person who can answer that. Tom has become a daddy of two boys and doesn't have anything to do with Tom's Hardware anymore. So far, so good. What does Tom think of the article you love so emphatically? That's sarcastic. Just to be clear, he was being sarcastic. This is actually, you can actually tell this is sarcastic. Unlike Avram Pilch's article, where I didn't know if it was satirical or not until later, and it wasn't. So if you didn't know. Tom went on to say, Well, I'd say Tom would have been less kind than you have been with his assessment. It is ultimately ridiculous, it is indeed suicidal, and its conclusions are epically nonsensical, referring to the Just Buy article by Tom's Hardware. There is value in being an early adopter? Aren't we, who are impatiently into the latest tech, sorely aware of what we keep doing to ourselves when we purchase technology at high prices, quote, ahead of the curve? It's massive fucking schism. We make ourselves paying beta testers and wait for software, and often other hardware, that will hopefully bless our brand new tech with the meaning and usefulness they simply do not have by the time of our premature purchase. There are no RTX games, but there is value in adopting Turing early because current games might be faster than our 1080 Ti SLI setup? Yes, this is madness. And good old Tom is scratching his head no less than you are, Steve. There's got to be value in masochism. And I think that is the full quote. Tom also said in the comments that he and Igor from Tom's Hardware DE are currently discussing a potential comeback. Well, Tom, if you wait long enough, Avram will make sure that tomshardware.com won't be worth anything. Just buy it. So, Tom, first of all, personally, thank you for watching the content, and thank you for commenting on it. It's great to have the opinion of someone who was in the industry sort of earlier than I was. So you've got the historical sight to see what's going on. You've got more of an idea of what things have been tried before by the companies, how they play out. And a lot of this is this is exactly what we had a problem with. So Tom hit the nail on the head here, and we fully agree with his comments on it. So if you're wondering what Tom himself, if you're wondering what has become of him, that's what's become of him, and that's what he thinks of the Just Buy It article. And Tom, thank you again for watching and for commenting. We sincerely appreciate it. Next one, Acer Predator Thronos. So Acer's got a 485-pound gaming chair, sort of. It's more of a cockpit than a chair, if we're honest. Acer debuted the Predator Thronos at IFA 2018, and the chair-ish weighs 485 pounds, has room for 3 27-inch monitors, plus room for a Predator gaming PC, and it also has motorized controls for the footrest, the keyboard tray, and the monitor arm. It's a pretty advanced piece of equipment for something you sit in. The Thronos is also adorned with lighting and can vibrate or rumble with games, as Acer says, much like a console controller. So they've got a rumble pack where you put your ass in the chair. No word on pricing or availability, but if you wanted something that weighs 500 pounds and does all the other stuff, I guess now you can buy it if you've always wanted that thing. FCC. So the FCC is upholding that single ISP markets can be competitive and fails to let me be. Recently, the United States 8th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the FCC can define single ISP markets as competitive as long as a competitive company's service region is less than half a mile away. Moreover, the FCC is now allowed to, quote, rationally choose which evidence to believe among conflicting evidence in its proceedings. In short, that could imply that the FCC has free rein to discard compelling evidence from customers or smaller ISPs when making decisions regarding bigger ISPs or market conditions, and surely there is no conflict there. It could also mean that so long as single ISP markets can be defined as competitive, those ISPs could be immune to business broadband price caps, which could be detrimental to schools, libraries, hospitals, government agencies, businesses, you name it. So yeah, great news. Thanks for that one. Rumor here. So the i9-9900K was allegedly delidded. There's another 9900K soldering rumor or leak. The folks over at XFastest have allegedly gotten hold of the unreleased i9-9900K and delidded it. And at XFastest, they said that based on the image they posted anyway, it looks like there's solder adhering the die to the IHS, which would address these rumors that have become increasingly more realistic at this point. And there's also gold plating surrounding the die and a slightly different IHS design than typically. So it looks like the 9900K might genuinely be soldered this time. And finally, hardware sales. First of all, our own stuff. If you go to store.gamersnexus.net, we've restocked a lot of things. We are out of stock on the glasses. Thank you for picking them up. You bought them too fast though, so they're gone. But if you want a mod mat, we have them on back order. They're coming back in. We sold through the entire last round. Again, thank you for picking them up. We have a lot of them on the way, so if you back order it now, you'll get one in the first round when it ships again. And then actual hardware sales, like computer hardware, there's a Vega 56. So not only is it a rare, oft unsighted Vega 56 card in the wild that you can purchase, it is also reasonably priced, and hopefully that's still there when this video goes up. The WD Blue 1TB drive, also completely unexciting on this one, but $40. It's got a promo code of EMCPXSE22 if you want to pick that up for $40. And we'll link those below if you're interested in them. Otherwise, show notes below for sources for all these. Thank you for watching. Go to store.gamersnexus.net to pick up a shirt like this one. We just restocked these full GamersNexus logos. Had to check and make sure that's what I was wearing. And the mod mats are there as well. And so are the mouse pads, by the way. They've been selling decently, so if you want that, pick it up. And subscribe for more. I'll see you all next time.